An accidental discovery in a Stanford neuroscience laboratory has revealed how a specific breathing pattern can measurably alter brain structure within 4 weeks. The finding emerged during stress response studies when researchers noticed that subjects practicing a particular breathing technique showed significant changes in their prefrontal cortex, the brain region governing decision-making, focus, and executive function. The technique involves a precise 4-count pattern: 4 counts inhalation, 4 counts retention, 4 counts exhalation, 4 counts retention. This method, known as box breathing, creates measurable neurological changes that extend far beyond simple relaxation responses. Brain imaging studies demonstrate that consistent practice literally constructs new neural pathways while strengthening existing connections between critical brain regions. Neural architecture functions similarly to transportation infrastructure. Most individuals experience cognitive bottlenecks in areas controlling anxiety and scattered attention. The 4-4-4-4 breathing pattern appears to create alternative neural routes that bypass these congested areas, establishing direct connections to regions associated with optimal performance and clear thinking. The distinction between individuals who seem to attract success effortlessly and those who struggle despite similar opportunities often relates to neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity for structural reorganization. During the initial week of consistent box breathing practice, the vagus nerve begins strengthening. This cranial nerve regulates heart rate variability, stress responses, and cognitive clarity under pressure. Many people function with compromised vagus nerve activity, creating a physiological state that undermines peak performance. Neuroimaging studies reveal that after 7 days of box breathing, connectivity increases between the prefrontal cortex and limbic system. This enhanced connection allows rational processing to override emotional reactivity, explaining why certain individuals maintain composure under stress. The second week brings additional neurochemical changes. The brain increases production of GABA, a neurotransmitter that promotes calm focus while simultaneously reducing cortisol levels. Chronically elevated cortisol actually shrinks brain tissue, so this reduction represents genuine neuroprotection. These changes occur while maintaining normal cognitive function, essentially upgrading brain performance during regular operation. Sarah, a London marketing executive, began practicing this technique after encountering the research in scientific literature. Within 2 weeks, she noticed fundamental shifts in her problem-solving approach. Challenges that previously triggered overwhelm now seemed manageable. Colleagues observed these changes without understanding their neurological basis. Her brain had structurally adapted to process stress differently. Common implementation errors include breathing too rapidly, extending hold phases beyond optimal duration, or discontinuing practice before neurological adaptation occurs. The 4-4-4-4 pattern represents the precise rhythm needed to activate parasympathetic nervous system responses while maintaining alertness. This balance distinguishes therapeutic breathing from purely relaxation techniques. By the 3rd week, the most significant transformation affects the default mode network, brain activity occurring during rest periods. Instead of defaulting to anxious rumination, neural processing shifts toward solution-focused thinking. The mind automatically seeks opportunities rather than dwelling on problems. This explains why entrepreneurs and high performers often recognize possibilities others miss. Their brains have developed different scanning patterns. Research participants demonstrated measurable improvements: 34% enhancement in working memory, 28% better emotional regulation, and increased cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt thinking patterns to new situations. These changes represent genuine cognitive enhancement rather than temporary states. Military applications of box breathing extend beyond stress management. Navy SEALs employ this exact pattern to maintain performance under extreme conditions. The technique improves split-second decision-making, increases resilience, and develops what military trainers call leadership presence. Corporate training programs have quietly integrated these methods, often without explaining the underlying neuroscience. After the 3rd week, practitioners report shifts in their relationship with opportunity itself. They notice openings previously invisible, make unexpected connections, and experience increased synchronicity. Research by Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett on constructed emotions provides explanation. When breathing regulates baseline brain states, environmental scanning becomes more sensitive to opportunity signals rather than threat indicators. This represents predictive processing rather than mystical thinking. Brains constantly generate predictions about future events based on past patterns. Altering these patterns through breath work changes what the brain expects, notices, and responds to. The unconscious mind literally learns to scan for success indicators instead of danger signals. Implementation failure often occurs despite understanding the science. Knowledge without consistent application produces no neurological change. The distinction between individuals who transform their lives and those who remain unchanged involves willingness to maintain simple practices over extended periods. Complex solutions appeal to many people, but the most powerful changes emerge from mastering fundamental techniques. Initial resistance to this practice is neurologically normal. Established neural pathways resist replacement, creating mental pushback during the first week. The unconscious mind generates elaborate avoidance strategies, time constraints, doubts about effectiveness, forgetfulness, procrastination. This resistance indicates the technique is challenging existing patterns, which is necessary for change. Successful implementation requires consistency over intensity. Daily 5-minute sessions produce better results than weekly hour-long practices. The brain needs repeated exposure to encode new patterns. Language learning provides an apt comparison. Fluency requires consistent practice rather than intensive cramming. Most people abandon the practice after 3 or 4 days when initial novelty fades. Real transformation occurs between days 14 and 21 when regulated states become automatic defaults. This timing coincides with when others begin noticing behavioral changes. Starting with guided sessions helps establish proper rhythm during the first week. Subsequently, practice can occur anywhere, during commutes, before meetings, or when cognitive state shifts are needed. Research participants who practiced immediately upon waking showed the most dramatic improvements. Morning sessions establish nervous system baseline for the entire day, beginning from regulated focus rather than reactive scatter. Consistency matters more than duration. 5 daily minutes for 28 days literally restructures brain architecture. Ancient breathing practices anticipated these scientific findings. Tibetan monks developed techniques centuries before neuroscience confirmed their mechanisms. Controlled breathing represents the convergence of ancient wisdom and modern research. Monks termed it pranayama, life force regulation. Scientists call it autonomic nervous system optimization. Different terminology describes identical processes. Advanced variations of box breathing create what researchers term accelerated neuroplasticity. These techniques involve specific manipulation of retention phases, producing brain changes in half the typical time frame. Effects compound rather than plateau, achieving in 2 weeks what standard practice requires monthly. These patterns were preserved in ancient texts for over a millennium before science explained their power. The advanced method creates coherent brain wave entrainment, synchronized electrical activity across different brain regions. This synchronization dramatically enhances cognitive function and emotional regulation. Few people know these techniques, but those who do report exponential rather than linear improvements. Neurological changes from controlled breathing represent genuine cognitive enhancement. Brain imaging confirms structural modifications that improve processing speed, emotional stability, and decision-making capacity. These adaptations persist beyond practice sessions, creating lasting performance improvements. The technique's effectiveness stems from its impact on multiple neural systems simultaneously. Respiratory control influences autonomic nervous system function, neurotransmitter production, and brainwave patterns. This multi-system approach produces comprehensive changes rather than isolated improvements. Understanding the mechanism helps maintain motivation during challenging initial phases. Knowing that mental resistance indicates successful neural challenge provides perspective when practice feels difficult. The brain's conservative tendencies serve important survival functions but can impede beneficial adaptations. Box breathing represents a scientifically validated method for cognitive enhancement that requires no equipment, medication, or external resources. The technique can be practiced anywhere, anytime, making it accessible regardless of circumstances. This accessibility distinguishes it from more complex intervention strategies. The research establishes clear protocols for optimal implementation. 4-count cycles, consistent daily practice, and patience during the adaptation period represent the essential elements. Variations exist, but the basic pattern provides the foundation for neurological change. Long-term practitioners report sustained benefits that continue expanding over months and years. Unlike temporary interventions, box breathing creates permanent neural architecture changes. The brain maintains these adaptations as long as practice continues, though benefits can persist for extended periods even after stopping. Corporate adoption of these techniques reflects their practical value in high-performance environments. When major organizations invest in breath training for executives, it validates the technique's effectiveness beyond academic settings. Real-world application confirms laboratory findings. The intersection of ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience provides compelling validation for traditional practices. When contemporary brain imaging confirms effects that monks observed through subjective experience, it suggests both approaches offer valid insights into human potential. Box breathing exemplifies how simple techniques can produce profound changes. The 4-count pattern requires no special skills or extensive training, yet produces measurable brain modifications within weeks. This combination of simplicity and effectiveness makes it particularly valuable for widespread application. The technique's military applications demonstrate its effectiveness under extreme conditions. If box breathing improves performance when lives depend on split-second decisions, its benefits for everyday stress management become even more compelling. High-stakes validation provides confidence in the method's reliability. Understanding the neuroscience behind box breathing helps distinguish it from less effective relaxation techniques. The specific timing and pattern create unique brain responses that go beyond general stress reduction. This precision explains why traditional breathing methods sometimes fail to produce lasting changes. The research timeline provides realistic expectations for practitioners. Week-by-week progression patterns help maintain motivation during periods when changes feel subtle. Knowing that major shifts occur around day 21 encourages persistence through earlier phases. Box breathing represents a bridge between subjective experience and objective measurement. Practitioners report profound personal changes that brain imaging can now verify and quantify. This convergence of subjective and objective evidence strengthens confidence in the technique's validity. The method's accessibility makes it democratically available regardless of economic status, geographic location, or educational background. Anyone can learn and benefit from box breathing, removing barriers that often limit access to performance enhancement techniques. Scientific validation of breathing techniques opens possibilities for further research into mind-body interventions. Box breathing represents just one example of how conscious control over physiological processes can influence brain function and cognitive performance. The technique's effectiveness across diverse populations suggests broad applicability. From military personnel to corporate executives to individual practitioners, box breathing produces consistent benefits across different contexts and populations. Understanding neural mechanisms helps optimize practice. Knowing that specific brain regions respond to controlled breathing allows practitioners to focus on techniques that target desired outcomes. This mechanistic understanding improves both effectiveness and efficiency. Box breathing demonstrates how traditional practices can be enhanced through scientific understanding. While the basic technique remains unchanged, knowledge of underlying mechanisms helps refine application and set appropriate expectations. The research establishes controlled breathing as a legitimate cognitive enhancement tool rather than merely a relaxation technique. This distinction elevates breathing practices from stress management to performance optimization, expanding their potential applications. Long-term studies will likely reveal additional benefits as researchers continue investigating breathing techniques. Early findings suggest that box breathing may influence creativity, memory formation, and social cognition in ways not yet fully understood. The technique's integration into elite training programs validates its practical effectiveness. When Navy SEALs and Fortune 500 executives rely on identical methods, it demonstrates cross-sector applicability and real-world value. Box breathing exemplifies how neuroscience can validate and enhance traditional wisdom. Ancient practitioners discovered effective techniques through careful observation. Modern research explains why these methods work and how to optimize them. The simplicity of box breathing makes it sustainable for long-term practice. Complex interventions often fail due to implementation challenges, while simple techniques like controlled breathing can be maintained indefinitely with minimal effort. Understanding the 4-week adaptation timeline helps practitioners commit to sufficient duration for meaningful change. Many interventions fail because people discontinue before neurological adaptation occurs. Knowledge of this timeline encourages appropriate commitment. The technique's effectiveness across different contexts demonstrates its robustness. Whether used for stress management, performance enhancement, or cognitive optimization, box breathing produces consistent benefits that adapt to practitioner needs. Scientific research on box breathing continues expanding as investigators explore additional applications. Current findings represent early stages of understanding how controlled breathing influences brain function and human performance. The method's validation through multiple research streams strengthens confidence in its effectiveness. When military studies, corporate research, and academic investigations all confirm similar benefits, the evidence becomes compelling across diverse perspectives. Box breathing represents a practical application of neuroplasticity principles. Instead of requiring complex interventions, it demonstrates how simple, consistent practices can produce significant brain changes within accessible timeframes. The technique bridges ancient wisdom and modern science in ways that honor both traditions while advancing understanding. This integration suggests possibilities for rediscovering and validating other traditional practices through contemporary research methods.